Hello, welcome to Hat Trick. I am Jordan Dowler-Coltman. I am joined by Elliot Tanti and Braden Dowler-Coltman. We are back after another week off. This is like a bi-weekly show. Let's just be honest. At this point, it's like a bi-weekly show. We're going to try to get back to it here. We got lots to talk about. And in fact, we've got so much to talk about that our first topic is literally just going to be jam-packed with as much stuff as we can fit in there. The old 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag topic. But we also have a very special topic too today because we, as the Ordinary Podcasting Network, are very proud to announce that the network has a brand new show, a hockey show, an Oilers show coming tomorrow. I guess you're listening to this Tuesday. It'll be out Wednesday, October 18th, called the Mother Pucker Podcast. So topic 2 is going to be a little preview of that. So you have that to look forward to, and then we'll do some hats off. Before we do that, really quickly, my 5-year-old, and he is 5 because, again, this show is coming out here on the 17th. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Lowen. You do not listen to this
Happy
podcast,
birthday,
although
Lowen.
every once in a while when it comes on in the car, he goes, there's Daddy and his friends.
His friends.
We could have called that the name of the show, Daddy and his friends. My 5-year-old says to me today, Dad, why is fall the only season with 2 names? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, it's called autumn and fall, but there's winter, spring, and summer, and they only have one name. So I asked the both of you to think about that as we move through the rest of this show and the profound nature of the fact that we are in the one season of the year with 2 names. All right, here it is, topic 1.
Sounds like Lowen needs his own podcast.
Lowen ponders. All right. Let's get to it. As I said, we're going to do a hat trick rapid fire. We're going to rip around the sports world as fast as we can, jam as much content into this little 5-minute segment as we can, because we have been off for a few weeks and there's lots to talk about. So here's kind of the rules. And Elliot loves when I assign rules because we never follow them very well, but I still think it's important to have occasionally some parameters. I'm going to ask you these questions with the expectation that you're going to give me like brief, concise, but thoughtful feedback on it. But just, I haven't prepped you on this. So just, the first couple thoughts on it. And some of them are like, I'm really just giving you the choice between 2 things and you're just going to give me your best guess at whatever it is. But just know that whatever you answer here, you will be held accountable for down the road. So answer wisely. First off, let's go to the Major League Baseball playoffs. So we are in the championship rounds here. We have the Texas Rangers versus the Houston Astros. That series is 2-0 for the Rangers. So it's a big battle of Texas. And then we got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Phillies. And that series is 0-1 for the Phillies. So I'm going to ask you this, Elliot. Texas, Houston, who comes out of that series?
Oh, I think the Rangers are the best team in the league right now, and they're showing it. 2-0. You got to take them.
Okay. Braden, Diamondbacks or Phillies?
Phillies. I think Phillies are the best team in the league right now. And
Perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
Phillies.
So that,
I would love for the Diamondbacks to be the ones, but no, it was the Phillies.
Okay. So that sets up a Phillies Rangers World Series. Elliot, who's winning the World Series?
No, the Rangers, probably in 4.
Braden.
Back-to-back Phillies. Phillies won it last year, and I think they'll defend it again.
I love that. This is going so well so far. Okay. Let's jump to another sport. We're going to go to the NHL now. So Connor Bedard obviously comes in as the number 1 pick. He's been highly touted for his entire life. Highly expected, was always expected to be the first draft pick in that draft, was, had a phenomenal junior career, but like the hype surrounding this kid feels different in terms of the way it's been. It's like kerosene has been poured on every part of it. And my question to you is this: do you think that the fact that he plays for a Original 6 classic NHL organization at a time when the NHL and ESPN are working really hard to try to grow the game in the United States is the reason that this has become so ridiculously overhyped? And when you compare it to the way a guy like Connor McDavid basically got no fanfare whatsoever because he was in a Canadian market. My question to you is this, Elliot: if Connor Bedard had been drafted by, say, I don't know, the Ottawa Senators, would we have the same hype machine in effect, or is this the Americanization of the NHL back in play?
Yeah, I think your instincts on this are right. I think it is the Americanization of the NHL. I think it's also a massive reputational thing for Chicago. That's a team that's been in disrepair and had really significant issues for a long time. We've talked about it on the show. And so, yeah, anything to turn the page on the reality of the situation, typical NHL. The only way Connor Bedard would be getting more attention if he'd been drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So let's be honest here.
Braden, do you think that the hype is warranted, or do you think that they've really overinflated this at this point?
I don't see why it's a bad thing, quite frankly. I think maybe the pressure is a lot for a young kid who's 18, but if they want this, to grow the game, there's nothing better than giving attention to a kid who's pretty special, and he is pretty special. I think it's warranted.
Can we just note like how ridiculous this schedule is? First 4 games, first games against Pittsburgh as childhood idol Sidney Crosby. Then you go to Boston, Montreal, and Toronto, a swing through the East to other original 6 teams, but also some of the biggest hockey markets. Like, this is very intentional. Every piece of this, it's like so obvious.
Totally. Now, tell me how intentional it is to play two back-to-back games against the Canucks in like the course of.
Hey, hang on, this is a rapid fire round.
Days?
You are not in the driver's seat. We will get to the Oilers content. Just cool your jets.
Just don't get it.
We're moving on. The NFL is up next.
Played 2 games.
The NFL is up next. Okay. I have 2 questions concerning the NFL. The first one is this. Elliot, are Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift actually dating?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Braden, do they last through the entire season?
Like
as a couple,
living?
No, as a couple, or when she has to go off back on tour because she's going to South America in like 3 weeks.
Oh, I don't know. Yes. I don't care.
All right, good. That's great. Good answer. Next question. NFL still related. You get 2 choices here. 2 of the hottest teams, but 2 teams that have come from being like perennial basement dwellers to all of a sudden having lightning fast success this season. Elliot, who has the higher likelihood of being in the Super Bowl? The Miami Dolphins or the Detroit Lions?
Oh, Dolphins for sure. That offense is
Dolphins. That's easy.
Unbelievable offense in the Dolphins. No,
Braden, you're going to go with the Dolphins too?
Dolphins. No,
you're breaking Tyler Walzak's heart.
I don't. Sorry, buddy.
Okay, I don't think he listens.
Dolphins. Watch them play, man. Just watch them play. It's crazy. Tyreek Hill's unstoppable.
Okay, let's move on then to the NBA. Again, I told you we're going quick here. We got Raptors playing some Australian rules basketball team a couple nights ago, like the Tarpons or whatever they're called. I have a question for you, not related specifically to that, but like I had to ask Brad, I'm like, who the hell are they playing? And this is apparently some exhibition thing that the NBA does to like the same way that like Notre Dame plays, Western Wichita or something in the early parts of their season. Just like, I think they used to call these like cupcake matchups where like the big dominant team would get to just go beat up on somebody to feel confident about themselves. So clearly the Raptors have set this up in such a way that, like it's meant to be an exhibition thing, but yada, yada, yada. The question is this.
Well, it's more than just the Raptors, Jordan. Like this.
No, I know. They brought this team up there just so that half the NBA could beat them up.
Cleveland played a team.
And then Utah they can all go back to Australia.
No, different really teams.
Proud of
all sorts of different teams.
Perfect. The point is the question. That's not the question. The question is this.
Yeah, but you got to get your facts straight before you ask a question.
All like I know is the Raptors played a bunch of who knows whatsies from Australia. That's all it matters.
That's right.
They're like, okay, cool. So, but here's the question. If you could set up any fantasy matchup between one of the major American sports teams and an equivalent from somewhere else in the world, what would your fantasy matchup be? And I say this because in the old days, like the NHL, for example, like the Red Army came over and would play against the Montreal Canadiens, or the Red Army came over and played against like the NHL All-Stars, right? But if you could think of a scenario where you put 2 teams, one that's, one of the major sports in America against a amateur or a different professional league from somewhere else in the world, what would that dream scenario be? And I give me a reason why you think it would be a good setup. I've got one for you too on this one. Yeah. But Braden, you go first.
Yeah, what would it be? For me, it would be, setting aside all geopolitical views, it would be really fun, I think, to see like a Stanley Cup champion team face off against a KHL champion team. That's something that I don't think we've ever seen.
Probably won't, but yeah.
And probably won't. Of course, for a lot of different reasons. But I think just in terms of like the top end talent, getting to see that would be really fun.
Elliot? No, wait, just before I do that, actually, Braden, can you name one KHL team?
Not at all.
Okay,
The
cool. Just checking.
no, can't even try. I won't even try.
I
Oh
think
no,
that's like the
locomotive,
Moss. Oh
locomotive,
yeah, well,
locomotive.
for the
And
worst reasons, you know
yeah,
that name.
well, I know the name though. I can.
I
I
think there's
won't tell
also
you why I can't
the
name a
only other team
player.
I think I know. I think there's a Beijing like Red Stars or something in the
Well,
KHL.
Pavel
There's a
Dimitrov,
Chinese
rest
team.
in peace, was a part of that team.
All right, Elliot, how about you? Do you have a dream scenario you can think of between a professional or North American team and some other team?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd like to see is like the winning team from Japan in baseball play like the World Series champion.
Yeah,
I think that would be
yeah.
cool. But you know what is actually a real thing that's gone away that I used to love and was a big hype thing was when the Oilers rookies would go play the Golden Bears. And I don't think they've done that for a while, at least since COVID. And that was always like a really fun event, both for the university and everyone.
Mhm.
I'd love to see that again.
So you're right. That was the first one it made me think of because that's an iconic one. And the other one was that previous years they've also had like rookies take on like the Canadian women's national team as an exhibition game. But you know
Yeah,
what I
that's
would love
sweet.
to see? I would love to see the Super Bowl champion take on Alabama or LSU or like
Oh,
whoever the
that
most dominant college team is, though. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Or how about this? Let's change it up. The worst NFL team takes on the best NCAA team. That'd be fun. Like the Chicago Bears could take on Georgia.
And get thumped.
I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
it'd be kind of cool to see like an NFL team play rugby against like maybe not like the All Blacks, but like, a semi or a professional rugby team.
All right.
Well, we've talked about this on other episodes, but like the cross sport from the normal sport that they've played would be kind of interesting. Connor McDavid on a tennis court or like that kind of a thing would be fun.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, I've got two more for us really quickly here. Again, we're trying to move quickly here. We're going to go to the Olympics really quickly. So the IOC announced that for the LA Olympics in 2028, they're going to introduce a few new sports. 5 sports were added. This happens every Olympic cycle. There's a couple sports that come in, a couple sports that go out. Like softball's been in, it's come out, it's going to go back in. But the sports that are going to go in for the LA Olympics include baseball/softball. So the men will play baseball, women will play softball, cricket, and it's a specific type of cricket with like T20 or whatever it's called. I guess it's a shorter game. Flag football, lacrosse sixes, which is this new version of field lacrosse where you don't have the full thing. It's kind of like rugby sevens. Like it's meant to be a faster, a bit more aggressive, but like tighter game. Squash is the last one that's also going in. There were a couple other pitches, but those are the 5 that got in. First, I'll ask you, Braden, of the 5 I just named, what are you most excited to see at like the top level?
Squash.
Okay, Elliot.
Yeah,
I didn't ask why. Just the sport. Elliot.
Yeah, I've just started playing squash like last week, and
Whoa, you could make the Olympics. Get to it. All right. So squash. I'm actually really excited to see this lacrosse, only because I think lacrosse is like an underappreciated sport, just in terms of like the impact and sort of like the number of athletes that played in North America. Like it's an incredibly important collegiate sport in the States.
When we were young,
women's too.
When we were young men and lived together, used to trash lacrosse non-stop.
So, Elliot, I've
if
grown,
you know anything
I've grown
about
as
Jordan,
a person.
He'll trash just about anything that somebody wants to debate.
I've grown as a person. I don't understand lacrosse, but I think it would be cool to see. I'm just interested in that. Now, but okay, so I had one more question.
I don't understand why they want to make it shorter and faster and quicker just for the sake of the Olympics.
Well, it's interesting. Is it field lacrosse or box lacrosse? Because those are two very
sixes, I believe, is a type of field lacrosse.
And they're introducing baseball and softball as well, or were they already in there?
Because the idea with sixes lacrosse allows in the rules, the women play a very similar game to the men. So it's kind of like one set of rules, men and women, and then both are competing, which I think is the important part for the Olympics. They really wanted to make sure that these were there was some gender parity in the sports that they were bringing in, including flag football, which apparently will be gender neutral. They'll either do mixed teams or they'll do a female or a male identifying category. Okay, really quickly here. In addition to those, give me one sport you'd like to see go into the Olympics. A winter or summer games, something that is not currently there, but that like is a legitimate sport. I don't want you to be like, pinochle or something.
What, like flag football? I don't get that. That should be the question. Why the hell is that in the Olympics? What is that?
That's a good
game
question.
that
I
people
don't know.
play at their birthday parties. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. But that, irregardless of that, give me
Okay,
something
then I'll say Red Rover.
great. Okay, Elliot,
Of course, snooker.
snooker. Hey, that's good.
Snooker. There you
Snooker's good.
go.
Uh, I want to see one of those not the marathon, like the ultra marathon, like the Ironman, like the extreme marathons, or like the ones where the guys like run for like 4 days straight in the woods with no actual map. They just have to figure out the way through one of those like extreme sports. I think that'd be kind of fun. Like you started on day one of the Olympics, and 2 weeks later, whoever's made it out of the woods gets a medal, kind of thing.
Whoever gets the furthest over the course of the Olympics.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be great. Start them in LA. Whoever gets to New York first wins. Okay, but no like cars or anything. They just got to walk or run. Okay, that's awesome. Last question.
F1 should be in the Olympics too.
Well, autosport, that's definitely a conversation. Like there has been conversations about autosport, but it's kind of a weird one. Let's go to our very last
flag football.
Hey man, I didn't pick the rules. I didn't pick the sports. I didn't do that. And I'm sure that there's a lot of like racquetball players who are really annoyed that squash got in and they didn't. They just have I guess there's a bigger squash lobby. And also, I guarantee you, by the time we're all in like the 1930s or the 2030s or whatever it is for the next like round of Olympics, pickleball will be in there before we know it. All right, last question here of this rapid fire round, which is slowly becoming less and less rapid. Elliot, in 30 seconds or less, give me your best 2 games in Oiler overreaction.
Leon Draisaitl's not re-signing here.
Wow. Braden.
The sky is falling. Campbell gets traded 5 days from now.
Jesus. Okay, great.
But then still wins the Vezina. Ah?
There you go. Okay, I have one overreaction, but I actually think that of the 3 of them, it might be the actual most sort of legitimate. I think that Jay Woodcroft needs to drop this zone defense plan he has implemented right now and go back to what they were doing, because this zone thing that they're trying to do on the penalty kill is just an absolute non-starter. All right, I will ask our guests in the next segment also for their overreaction. So this will be an overreaction heavy show. But that is topic 1. Hey, football fans. The Ordinary Podcasting Network is very excited to welcome back for its 2nd season, Running Down the Clock, presented by Puya Ricey and Tyler Walzak. These 2 football fans will sit down with you every Thursday of the NFL schedule to talk football. You can subscribe to Running Down the Clock anywhere you get your podcast. Okay, as promised, I'm here now with the 2 newest podcasters on the Ordinary Podcasting Network, the hosts of the Mother Pucker podcast. I have Rizz and Reese, Alicia and Larisse with me. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having us.
We are good. Yeah. Happy to be here.
Big week. Very exciting over here for all of us at the network. We've been talking about it. We've been planning for it, and we've slowly been dropping hints. But Wednesday, so by the time people are listening to this, tomorrow, we are going to be launching the Mother Pucker podcast. We are so excited to have it. It's going to be a fresh, new, unique hockey, let's admit it, Oiler centric podcast. Alicia, maybe for you first, like just give our listeners like an idea of what they should expect when they obviously subscribe and listen to the Mother Pucker podcast.
Obviously. Well, I think our MO is that we sound female, but we still talk hockey.
Amen.
Yeah. So just 2 girls who are going to be maybe consuming some wine and talking about our favorite team, the Edmonton Oilers, but I should say 2 Edmonton girls who no longer live in Edmonton, which is kind of ironic. And we have a couple hot takes about some hockey centric topics that have been going around, whether it be NHL based and beyond. And we like to laugh and have some fun.
Yes, and I think that I think your listeners are probably going to have a lot of fun too. Would you encourage them to be drinking wine while they're listening, Larisse, or is this a sober only show?
A drink of choice. Drink of choice. You know, it can be a margarita, if it's a spicy day,
Ooh.
if you want to pull out a nice red, it's red weather here in Vancouver right now. It's where I'm from. So, whatever they'd like, they can join us. And if there are sober gals or they're doing sober October or sober November or sober December, they're more than welcome to join. They can put on a face mask, get out of the shower, come and join us.
Now, for the listeners who don't know, let's just talk a little bit first about the two of you. So obviously Hat Trick listeners should be familiar with both of you because you've both been guests on Hat Trick at different points. You, Reese, have definitely come in with some hot takes in the past. So I'm sure that our listeners who are familiar with that are there. But for you, why did you want to do a hockey podcast this year?
I think because I'm tired of talking to you about hockey and I wanted to talk to somebody who I enjoyed being around. And so Rizz was my first choice. I wanted to talk about hockey because I am really interested in the new female voices in sports, and especially in hockey, that are like finally making their way onto Twitter, onto TikTok. There's a market, there's a space where wanted voices are great. And it's just a fun way to share something that I really love. And why not right now when we have two of the best players in the league on our team? Why wouldn't we want to be talking about it all the freaking time?
All right. So I'll ask you the same question, Alicia. Now, again, for our listeners, they should be familiar. You were a guest on our show a couple of years back talking about your career as an Olympic bobsledder. Now, that is, just the tip of the iceberg as far as your background in sports. But for you, we know you're an Oilers fan now, and as you acknowledge, both of you are living behind enemy lines. Maybe just first for the Hat Trick listeners, the Reese is in Vancouver, but you're like really behind enemy lines.
I am.
Why?
I'm in an enemy house. Yeah.
Living with the enemy.
Living with the enemy.
So why would a woman living in Calgary think it was a good idea to fire up the hot take machine and deliver an Oilers centric podcast?
Well, so as mentioned earlier, I'm married to a former hockey player who happens to be a Flames fan. So there is a lot of hockey that is watched in this house because conveniently the Oilers and Flames often play on separate nights. So for instance, he's got the Flames game on right now downstairs, and tomorrow it will be the Oilers. I tend to watch both, and so it ends up being just a lot of in general hockey talk and comparing those two teams, which also just turns into comparing other teams in the division and beyond. So I love to hear his hot take, but oftentimes he's talking about the systems, which I don't really care about. I'd rather talk about what Ken Holland's doing, or all the way down to what the boys are wearing as their outfits as they're walking into the ring, the fit checks. So we got everything that to cover, and maybe not necessarily always talking about what's happening in the systems.
All right, I love it. Really quickly here, we'll do a rapid fire thing before we send it off. I know you guys have just recorded your first episode. As I said, for all those that were looking for it, it'll be available everywhere you get your podcasts starting tomorrow. That's Wednesday, October 18th. Again, check it out, subscribe, tell your friends all about it. The Mother Pucker podcast. Really quickly, give me like your number one early Oilers overreaction. The whole world of the whole Oilers nation right now, the sky's falling. We all know it. I love the Evander Kane quote that came out this morning or whatever, where he sort of just played into the whole thing like, oh God, we've lost 2 games. It's over. We're done.
We're the worst team in the league.
But it's fun. It's just fun to play into. So give me your best overreaction right now, Alicia, just off the top of your head. Number one overreaction.
That the Oilers have no goaltending and won't be able to win 50% of their games.
Love it. All right, Larisse.
That the Oilers are committing medical malpractice, putting Inak home too soon.
Oh, wow. Okay, those are some spicy takes. I'm a big fan of this, and I guarantee you, you will all enjoy the show. Check it out everywhere you can starting tomorrow. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Larisse. I will get you off the hook. You've been podcasting for hours, slaving away. That's our second topic. And we'll be back after this with hats off.
Hey, podcast listeners. My name is Rizz Campbell, and along with my co-host, former Olympic bobsledder, Alicia Olson, I am so excited to introduce you to the Mother Pucker podcast. Our brand new show launches this Wednesday, October 18th, and if you love the Oilers like we do, you are going to love our show. It's just 2 gals who aren't afraid to drop the gloves and throw some hot takes about the boys in blue and orange. Whether you're a massive hockey fan like us or just looking for some new voices talking about the Oilers' blue line, or lack thereof, We promise the show is for you. So subscribe now and tell your friends. It's time for the Mother Pucker Podcast.
Okay. We're going to do hats off here really quickly before we do that. I know you both just heard from Alicia and Reese. Scale of 1 to 5, not 10, just 5. Elliot, how excited are you for the Mother Pucker Podcast?
11.
Nice. Braden?
Yeah, well, I was going to say 10, but I think Elliot's pinned it in a very good spot there. A scale of 1 to 5, definitely an 11. That's going to be a lot of fun for people to listen to.
Okay. We hope so. And as I just said a few seconds ago, listen to it tomorrow, anywhere you get your podcasts. Let's take our hats off here, boys. Wrap this show up. This does not have to be rapid fire. You can take your time if you would like to, but it's your prerogative. Elliot, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been lots been made of the Pride tape / NHL's inability to sort of like deal with anything controversial and therefore do stupid controversial things. But I've got to take my hat off this week to Brian Burke, who is a character and very annoying a lot of the time. But on this issue, he has been consistent for a very long time and with really good reason, a very personal reason. And once again showed why he's a leader in this sport that should be listened to on these types of issues, and had a very, I think, tactful but direct response to the NHL's decision. So, yeah, my hat this week goes off to Brian Burke.
That's a great one. I agree with that one a lot. And I would also just tag on, I didn't realize what his new job was. He's the head of the Women's Players Association for this new women's league. I think that's fantastic. So if you want to talk about someone who's had a fascinating just career trajectory, Brian Burke, there's a lot to unpack there. Fascinating guy.
Well, I have a lot of time for anyone who lives their values.
100%. Braden.
I'm tipping my hat off to a very valuable member of the Calgary Flames organization who unfortunately lost his battle with ALS a few weeks back at the age of 42. That's Chris Snow. He was their assistant general manager. A really tragic loss for that entire organization, entire community in Calgary, but he was a very valuable member and someone that that team's going to be really rallying against this season to continue to remember Chris Snow.
Lovely. Yeah, definitely a difficult one. But I thought the Flames also did a beautiful job honoring him. Home opener. They had his family out there. Really beautiful. Sad story, but yeah, great choice, Braden. I will wrap us out here. We've stayed all in hockey, which is interesting, but I guess it's the beginning of the year. I will take my hat off to a coach who I have long admired in terms of the way he's carried himself, but moreover, just the way he's communicated. And I think he's one of the most well-spoken people in the NHL currently. He has coached for the Hartford Whalers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Winnipeg Jets, and now the Florida Panthers. And Paul Maurice moved tonight into third place on the NHL's all-time games coached list. He's coached 1,769 games, and his Panthers beat the New Jersey Devils to help him celebrate that milestone. So congratulations, and my hat goes off to Paul Maurice, the third place on the all-time games coached list for the NHL. All right, that is our show for this week. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to learn more about this show, about the Mother Pucker Podcast, or about any other show in the Ordinary Podcasting Network, you can do so by heading over to ordinarypodcasts.com. You can also follow us on Instagram. And as always, thank you for listening. That was Hat Trick. Hat Trick is a member of the Ordinary Podcasting Network. It's produced every week by Jordan Dowler Coltman and Braden Dowler Coltman. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.
If Loan wants to know, both spring and autumn used to go by different names. In the 12th and 13th century, spring was called Lent or Lenten, while fall was called Harvest. And in the 14th century, things got a little chaotic. Lenten disappeared around the beginning of the 1300s, and later Lent similarly vanished only a few decades later.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network wishes to acknowledge that the lands on which our conversations take place include Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting ground and home for many indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and the Nakota Sioux peoples, as well as the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. And we extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live, create, and share stories on these territories.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network intends to engage in conversations and dialogue which acknowledge that reconciliation is not a destination, but a journey, and that we remain committed to practicing our craft in a decolonized space.